Well, good afternoon, Vision alumni, board members, and classmates. Welcome to the Mental Health Awareness presentation. And two, just so you know, we have two members who are supporting and partnering with the healthcare community out there already, which is Jessica Chambers and Jill Ruggeri, who could not make it because they are working with the community. All right, so real quick, as we go through this, just to kind of set a preview of what you're going to experience and view today, you're going to watch and go through the background. You're going to see the ideas generated, the journey and the focus of those ideas and the resources that we want to make aware. And then you're going to see the action steps and then how you can help in the St. Charles County community. So what you see here is our mission. And really it was just in creating intentional focus on the mental health resources here in St. Charles County. From there, our vision was to make sure that the awareness and utilization of those mental health resources were helping children and helping their families to just be stronger and more informed in the community. So before we go to the next slide though, and start with the background, I want you to take a moment and I want you to think about some of those individuals, whether they be in your family, whether they be your friends, maybe they're even co-workers who have experienced anxiety or have experienced depression. And really, as we go through this, that's what we want you to keep in mind. And now, before I turn it over I want to turn it over to Matt Jones and Nick Brunnworth, and they will take you through the next slides. Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon. Matt Jones, O'Fallon Family YMCA, and a little personal testimony as to why this was attractive, why this group kind of caught my eye. And I think the important thing really to understand is that we want to understand our community better and how we can be a part of the solution. And not only that, but we're not far removed from those that struggle with some sort of mental health. It's also important to note that we are not here for a cure. We're here to bring awareness to other people about how your community, about how you can help other people. And so let us remember that as we're doing this, we're bringing up awareness about what is out there, what is right next door to us. And I think even more, given what we've seen in the past 2 months, 3 months, is that this mental health, whatever it may be, is going to explode. It's going to get larger. And so awareness is going to be a piece that we really need to push and to make people aware of what's going on. So I'm going to turn it over to Nick.
Thanks, Matt. Nick Brunnworth, Providence Bank. As many of my team members will attest, this subject matter was very personal to me. I suffered from the effects of an anxiety disorder my whole life, but it wasn't until 10 years ago that I was clinically diagnosed. Mental health can leave an individual in a state of hopelessness and apprehension. So promoting a cause that will increase awareness and utilization of available resources specifically for youth is something I will always fully support. On the next 4 slides, Matt and I will illustrate the needs of our state and more specifically, our local community as it relates to youth mental health issues. Based on the most recent epidemiological profile analysis that was conducted in 2019, data from 2004 to 2017 was examined. We can see with slide 4 that Missourians aged 12 to 17 were most likely to report a major depressive episode in the previous year. Compared to other age groupings, ages 12 to 17, the frequency is occurring at a higher rate. This study also found Missourians have a higher rate of occurrence than on a national level. It's kind of surprised me. For those that were able to attend our Vision 2020 program day dedicated to educational matters in St. Charles, we were fortunate to hear personal testimony from Molly Hudgens. Molly Hudgens is the Associate Provost at Lindenwood University for Curriculum and Exponential learning academic affairs. Molly addressed the need for more help with mental illness. She said the waiting period at Lindenwood University for college students was as long as 90 days with a professional about their mental health challenges. So moving on to slide 5, the same Missouri study identified earlier that I spoke of shows the various diagnoses served by psychiatric services during the period of 2010 to 2017. We've highlighted some of the more ubiquitous disorders, specifically anxiety disorder, experienced a 92% increase. Mood disorder was reported 34% more often, and psychiatric disorder had a 16% increase. When you consider we only saw an increase in Missouri population of 2.5% from April 1st, 2010 to July 1st, 2019, it actually went a little bit beyond what this report shows. The numbers don't lie. You know, it's pretty self-evident. I'm going to turn the presentation over to Matt Jones for more specifics on the background of our group findings. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. The slide you see before you has a number of statistics that are involved here. And I think what's important is, since we're all here serving our community or figuring out how we can better serve our community, is that we listen to what the community is actually saying. And so as you see here, you see depression and substance abuse are increasing issues that are linked to financial problems. Everybody has financial problems at one time in their life or other, and bringing awareness to this is that it's an epidemic that's actually growing is something that we need to do. There's often an embarrassment related to mental health issues, and a lack of access that you just heard from Nick is a critical issue in rural areas. And as you see, not only in rural areas, but here in the St. Charles County. The public needs to be more aware of health issues and healthy behaviors and services. And I think that's why more organizations need to team up. They need to work together about how we can address the issue that's at hand. We look down just a little bit further here, as you see underneath the point that says suicide. 4.8% of St. Charles students reported attempted suicide. 4.8%. It's a big number. It really is. And 8.6 report a planned suicide attempt. Look at just a little bit further to your right, treatment admissions. And if you look here, the 22.7% is where we're at. And that is compared to 17% for the state of Missouri. And that's 5.7% higher than the state of Missouri's rate. You see over on deaths, 4.6% of deaths in St. Charles County were drug or alcohol induced, versus 3.6 for the state of Missouri. So yes, we have a very large population in St. Charles County. And none of these numbers, I believe, are skewed in any way. But when you break it down to the number, it becomes increasingly important for us to bring awareness to this growing epidemic of a number of different areas. They're not just localized to suicide. They're not just localized to deaths and alcohol. There's a number of things that fall into play here. And as we go to our next slide, you'll see just a little bit more of the background and of the death toll. One out of every 56 deaths in 2018 were due to opioid overdose. 1 out of every 56. And that number, I think, will continue to grow until we bring awareness to more and more things, more and more opportunity for people to be able to be involved with organizations that can help shine a light on this. It can help show exactly what we as a community can do together to bring awareness to something that is continuing to grow. So I'm going to turn it over to Bridgett.
Hello, everyone. I'm Bridgett Pelikan, Wands and Wishes Travel. This project was very personal to me as someone who has struggled my whole life with mental illness. I grew up in a home where everyone suffered. It was an abusive home, and I have even been one of these statistics of people that have tried to commit suicide. So this was very important to me to make, and it's now a life's passion to make sure that, people are aware of this, especially for those of us that are high functioning and people don't notice those issues in them. So some of the ideas we generated were, Jessica's idea was a 5K, a walk or run. And we talked a lot about that it would bring a lot of awareness to a lot of people. And it would be very fun and a way to get the whole family involved. But one of our biggest issues was that it was very expensive, and we didn't know that it would have the lasting impact past the day of the run. So we also considered a poster campaign for local schools and universities. And we thought really big. We thought about targeting all St. Charles County schools and school districts, including their higher education. And we looked at including actual students that are struggling. And we changed our minds on some of those things. Because we talked with Laura Wagner, who's administrative assistant for public relations in Fort Zumwalt. She said that was a good idea, but that we couldn't use actual students. Even pictures of stock photos would be a struggle, that we needed to soften our wording, and that the first step would be picking one school as a pilot, and then looking at the poster campaigns that are already in place. And then once we've perfected that, we can plug it into other schools. So now I'm going to turn it over to Lance.
All right, and I'm going to turn it over to Luke. All right, Luke.
Thank you, Lance and Bridget. So from the beginning, when we decided we were going to do these projects, my mind went to the mental health needs, the needs for awareness, the need to take stigma away, and the need to put resources in people's hands. And the reason for that, in 2014, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder myself. While it explained a lot of my history and a lot of the past, it was a daunting diagnosis to face with good insurance, with family support, and with the proper resources to research. And so knowing that a large part of our community faces these things without having a proper diagnosis, is certainly without the tools and resources, I can't imagine having had to face that day, July 23rd, 2014. That day would have been insurmountable, emotionally and mentally, without the resources I had, being in a decent job and having good insurance. So the passion for me comes from knowing exactly what that moment feels like of having that diagnosis and not know where to go, having the resources and not having the resources could have easily made me a statistic. So Lance, with that, I'm gonna hand it over to you, brother.
Thank you, Luke. And I want you to know that I appreciate your and Bridget's courage, because I just appreciate you sharing that, because it's funny. I'm going to share something too. So this, as it is for most of us, very personal. So this is a picture of my family. It's my father, my mother, me being 8, my brother being 4. So a year after that, my mother became a widow at the age of 36 because of depression. So it is something that I do have a passion for, because of the stigma around it. And there needs to be more awareness. And that's one of the things we're going to get into as well. The other piece of this is, not only did my father struggle with depression, so did my brother and our son. And I mean, as you go through this and you go on our journey, you know, Bridgett hit on this to where we were going to hit it very blunt, and we were going to hit mental health with a 4x4. We were going to use the slogan that mental health looks just like your friends. And what I just showed you is, you don't know what mental health looks like, because it is all around us. And that's what we're trying to do. We are trying to make the resources more available, and we're trying to make the community more aware, because we don't want them to be another statistic. So thank you for allowing me to share that. So as many of us, all our journey started out, and we were going to reshape mental health in every entire school district, every entire school in St. Charles County. And yes, we were gung-ho and we were ready to roll. Even before we got out of the retreat, we were on it. So then the realization came pretty quick that while that would be great, it probably was not pragmatic. So of course, when you start an initiative like this, you can't do it without our community partners. And that's probably the biggest takeaway from this slide, is the fact that as we journeyed here, everything came together in the last 30 to 45 days, but we couldn't have done it without Dr. Tom Muzzy. We couldn't have done it without Juliet McLeod. We couldn't have done it without Laura Wagner. We couldn't have done it without Todd Barnes. We couldn't have done it without Bruce Sawaski and Michelle McInfresh. And we couldn't have done it without Matt Miller. And then all of a sudden things came together where we could plug into something that was already there instead of reinventing the wheel. And that's when our momentum and flywheel begin to roll with us. And the reason I say a flywheel is because once you start a flywheel, because of how heavy it is, and with momentum, you cannot stop it. And that's where this is at. So as we go to the next piece, and then this is really when it became our focus, because we started to make it about the resources. And of course, we've already talked about the taboo and the stigma, and making sure that we targeted the students and made sure the parents were aware of the resources. And as Matt and Nick talked about how the prescription drug, illicit drug, and alcohol abuse is out there and can lead to this. And it affects the homelessness, the crime. And there again, we wanted to close that communication gap that is there. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Luke so he can move us forward.
Thank you, Lance. So the first thing I'd like to talk about, Lance talked a little bit about Michelle McElfresh and Bruce Sawatsky. And so the meeting with them was where it took some time to get there. The amazing resources, being part of Vision, is the only thing that got us connected to where we needed to be connected. And so eternally grateful for Mark and for the alumni and for everything that Vision provided for this project, because without the connections that Vision had, there's no way we would have gotten to the point we got and found these things with Bruce and Michelle. So this slide represents the wheel we were trying to invent in the beginning that was already invented, but it was kind of hidden. There's no marketing budget for non-for-profits. That's the truth. And so this had kind of gotten a little bit wayside. And so part of this is to bring this back to life and start using it more widespread. So there's a call, a chat, a text, and a go-to. The go-to safe place are places like UMB Bank and Quick Trip, any place that you see one of the safe place signs. Those can be those places that are trained to call youth in need or one of the partners and get that person help immediately. The text and the chat are things you can actually do online. And then obviously you can call and talk to a live person, but these are all staffed resources. They're free resources and they're already out there. So reinventing this wheel was unnecessary, but without going down all these kind of tributaries we ended up going down, there was no way to know that this existed because it wasn't very public. So if you can imagine us as a group going down these tributaries and pathways with the resources we had and the connections we had through Vision, and still having to have several meetings to know this existed, you can imagine how hard it would be for a 17-year-old that needs help today to find it. Impossible. So next, there's also a QR code that goes with this. This is all done through the CCRB and the BHR. So behavioral resources, behavioral health resources. So there's resources. When you do this QR code, it'll take you to a share page, a SharePoint page that has resources for both teens and their families. So there's resources for under 21 on there for their specific needs and those specific cases where housing or other things might be needed. And then there's specific resources links on there also for the families and for the people that are over 21. So while our focus remained the youth, especially high school students, being able to confidentially get help that they needed to not worsen their circumstance, this allows first responders, this allows us, this allows the community, a social media campaign, this allows everyone to send them to the place where the help can actually be gotten for the entire family. So it's exciting this exists and where we can go with that. And so with that, I'm going to hand it off to Kia Henderson.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kia Henderson with JP Morgan Chase. I was really excited to join this group just because, as the rest of my team members have testified to, I have personal experience with mental health issues and the impact that just a general awareness can have. As a student at Lindenwood University, actually, I was diagnosed with adult ADHD during my sophomore year. I began to struggle with class and that affected me socially. And just to have that underlying issue that went undiagnosed for so long, and then to suffer from the effects of that, those being depression and anxiety, just having resources available to me at an earlier date could have saved me a lot of turmoil and anguish as I went through my college career. So I was really excited to join this group, find out about all of the resources that are already available, and just figure out ways that we could help to generate awareness. So as other team members have alluded to, we went through a lot of steps and realized that there was already a wheel out there. There was no need to reinvent the wheel, but we just needed to reposition and remarket it. By repositioning, the resources that are already available, just showing that the exposure for the media-ready resources, we hope to generate awareness of these accessible resources to the community. We developed a social media campaign to connect with our target market, that being teens and their families, through a communication channel that is familiar to them. We didn't want to use outdated media sources like that teens might not be able to relate to or might not pay as much attention to, but interacting with them in a place where they feel comfortable felt like the best way to do that. And so we decided to do that through social media. So we have some first responders on our team. Jessica Chambers, who works for SSM, she said that, just having the first responders on her team, having these the QR codes available, that could be really impactful. So we're targeting all of the first responder agencies' social media accounts in St. Charles, so to host the social media campaign. And through that, our ultimate goal is to heighten the awareness of the St. Charles County Youth Connection Helpline and increase the distribution to the parties that need it. So as these first responders are going out to homes and doing wellness checks and things like that, just having a leave behind, something that's easily accessible, just to pick up and have that right there for you, so you can hop on the phone, use the QR code and things like that. So I'll walk you through the action items of the campaign. So we're targeting Mental Illness Awareness Week of 2020, and that happens in October. So all of these social media accounts of the first responder groups within St. Charles County, during Mental Awareness Week, we will have 2 posts a day, and it will be very similar to what you've seen on the presentation today. So the first post of the day will have facts, information for people that need that type of delivery to digest that information. So using statistical facts to show people how mental health is affecting our community on a day-to-day basis. So speaking about the opioid addictions and things like that are happening, overdoses, alcohol dependency and things like that. So that'll be the first post of the day. And then the second post, will be a personal testimony. And you might ask, who will we use to carry that on? But all of the members of this group have already volunteered their time to deliver their personal testimonies, just to have that human connection and show people that it's nothing to be afraid of. We can be conversational about it. The more we talk about it, the more awareness that we generate, the better, our community will be. And every post will include a link to the QR code. So we're driving the message, we're hitting people with facts, we're hitting people with their heartstrings, and we're also providing the resources there. So, and just having all of the social media of the first responders within St. Charles, hopefully, you know, we're getting lots of clicks and lots of views. So what tools will we use to do that? So there are actually a lot of Instagram schedulers out there where you can go in and you can automatically time posts for the day. So we will go ahead and create that content, and then through later.com, which is the #1 Instagram scheduler, and it's free to use. All of these first responders, so like let's just take SSM, we can their Instagram, their Twitter accounts, all of those, we can send out these blasts to their accounts and have that planned for the day. So little to no work on their end, but just where we need help is connecting with their marketing team, whoever manages their social media accounts, just to have a conversation and get them on board to participate. So how can you help? You can help us through connecting us to those individuals that I mentioned earlier. The more people that we can have involved, the more people can see these posts day after day during the Mental Health Awareness Week. The greater impact that we can have. You can follow these pages proactively and look out for the content that will come in October. And then you can engage by liking, by commenting, by sharing the posts. Again, we're trying to generate awareness about resources that are already available. So it's all about just getting it out there. And the more that we can have this information shared, you know, hopefully the greater impact that we can have on our community. We look forward to your questions and your comments and your notes, and hopefully more to come.